Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President of Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training Japan. And my special guest today is Bob van der Broecke, who is the Regional Director for North Asia for Evernex. Bob, welcome. Thank you very much. So, Bob, give us some of the background. How is it that you are here in Japan, being the Regional Director, North Asia for Evernex? How did you get to this point in your career? What's the background a little bit on what you've done? And what does Evernex do as well? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so it all started thanks to my family, I believe, because as in an early age, I was lucky enough to travel thanks to my father. So he gave me a little bit of international background due to his travel, being France, Thailand, China, and a little bit in Italy, but I wasn't born there yet. So I already had this kind of international background, which helped shape me, let's say, in the future when I actually joined Evernex.
Were you living in these countries or just visiting?
So yes, I was born in Belgium, as you know, with my Belgian name, Bob van den Broecke, kind of uncommon. And my father right away moved to Paris. So I'm from a Belgian family that lived in Paris. And the first part of my life was in Paris. So I was already brought up within two languages, which was Dutch and French. And we lived there for 11 years. And then my father moved to Thailand for another 10 years.
Wow. And
I lived there.
You speak Thai?
I have notions, I would say. I have basics. I knew how to speak better at the time, but if you don't practice it, you kind of lose it.
You lose it, yeah.
It's like my other languages. I guess if I went back, it would come back slowly but surely. I still remember a few things, of course, but I would not say proficient, that's for sure. And then my father moved to China. And I have also two brothers, two siblings that lived in China as well, and so on. So we've been traveling quite a lot. And so I had the exposures as well of China.
Did you learn Chinese as well?
No, Chinese was not part of my plan. I was maybe going to go to Hong Kong, but at the last minute I decided to go back to France to continue further my studies. So I went to Paris again for La Sorbonne. And at that time I said, I want something more. And this is when I decided to move to Italy. And this is where I learned Italian and finished my master. And this is also where I looked for a job and got the opportunity to work for Evernex.
So straight out of university,
not
master's
directly.
Degree, you went to Evernex, basically?
No, I worked for a pharmaceutical company for a year because I used to speak 6 languages. And so I was...
That's impressive. I gotta say, that's impressive.
Well, thank you. So I was requested or asked by this pharmaceutical company to help them grow the business internationally outside of Italy, so mainly Germany and so on. But the experience was not up to my taste, let's say, and it was not in the field that was, I guess it was a learning experience because then I felt it was not the kind of business I wanted to work in. And I've always been more interested in what I would call green economy and recycling. So I got the opportunity to apply in Evernex, which at the time was called IB Remarketing. And it's a French company. So speaking French, Italian at the time, and also it works in recycling. I'll explain it a bit later. So it was a perfect match. And I started working for Evernex, around...
In Italy or back in France?
Italy. In Italy.
Okay, right.
In Italy. I really fell in love with Italy, so I wanted to stay.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yes. And also my time there was quite short. It was only 3-4 years. And I felt like I needed to stay a little bit longer to get better in Italian and to learn more about the culture and so on. I just really liked it there at the time.
I'm a big Italy fan too, I have to say. I love it there. So then did you get sent to other countries outside of Italy with Evernex, or they sent you straight here, or how did you?
So how it happened is, okay, so at the time, Evernex, we used to be a much smaller company. I would say we were between 40 and 60 people. And with the management was really pushing for entrepreneurship. So there were a lot of opportunities, a lot of countries in which to work in. And so they were kind of pushing us to say, oh, if you really want to grow, if you want to become a manager, just build the business. Once you reach a certain amount, you can actually move there, if it's worth it, if there's enough business.
So selling into Japan, for example, from Italy, if you built the business to a certain size, then you could come here and set up an operation. Is that how it works?
So that's how it worked, but it was not directly from Italy. So actually, after Italy, after 5 years, I wanted a different experience, and one of my colleagues just had moved to Hong Kong. So we have an office in Hong Kong and also in Malaysia at the time. And due to my previous experience in Asia, they thought I would be a good fit to help develop the business in Southeast Asia and North Asia as well. So they asked me to move to Hong Kong. And so at that time, my title was not country manager yet. It was big accounts manager. So I was to work on big accounts such as IBM, HP, Nokia, Ericsson, and so on and so on. And as soon as I arrived, there was this. So Japan was part of my scope, and we had this opportunity with one of our biggest customers that was requesting or needed help for their support in Japan. And so it became one of my main projects, and I was doing back and forth until we were awarded the deal in September 2016. And since it was quite substantial, by the end of the year, we had to open the Japanese branch. We had to hire people here.
And they sent you?
So I was in charge.
Yourself to do that, or you had people come in here and do that for you, or how did that work?
No. So it was myself and my colleague. So my old boss at the time. We were, coming back and forth doing the meetings with the customer and looking at the potential for opening. What are the requirements? And the cost involved, and so on and so on. So to make a P&L, to understand if it was worth coming to Japan. And very quickly it became transparent that we needed to be here because we were traveling back and forth on a weekly basis.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's
like
not
I
much
used
fun?
to. No. Well, at the time, yes, because it was kind of a new experience for me. I just moved and it was traveling everywhere in Asia. I had never been to Japan. So it was a great experience, right?
But after you've lived in Thailand, you're there for quite a long time, China, and then you come to Hong Kong, and then you come here. Japan is quite a different animal compared to those. It's like a step up, isn't it? It's like suddenly, this place is big, it's clean, it's orderly, it's organized, it's serious, like there's serious dough in Japan. You really feel that, I think, and that's probably what you were sensing, I guess, and you look at that P&L going, there's a land of opportunity here.
So the main difference, I would say, with Japan is that the focus is not on the cost only, it's really about the quality. So that was a little bit different from other countries or the other experiences that I've had so far. So Japan, in a way, was an eye-opening experience, but also a quite welcome experience, because this is something that I think in my company as a service, because we're a service provider, this is what we need to aim for, right? It needs to be about quality, it needs to be about efficiency, and also it needs to be about trust. You don't say something and then don't own up to your word. So in Japan, that took up a whole different meaning. So there was no room for, I would say, there's no room for saying something that you're not gonna hold up. Right? So it was very, very interesting, but also very welcome and refreshing in a way. So business is not the same because money is not so much the issue as long as the quality is there. Of course, it's changing now, but at the time it was a little bit more focused on quality. So
how long ago did you step up and establish the operation in Japan?
I arrived here in 2016. We opened Evernex Japan KK in September 2016.
Okay.
And I moved to Japan in January 2017.
17. Okay. So you start from zero, right? Now, probably nobody in Japan had really knew much about Evernex. It was, I don't know, you said it was 60 odd people when you started. I don't know how big it was when you got to Japan, but let's say in Japanese scale of things, it's probably a small foreign company in Japan. And you now have to convince Japanese to quit where they're working now and come and work for you and take this risk of this, because foreign companies are, renowned for closing their doors when they have a, bad quarter or something, and they're out of here, right? So not so easy to recruit people to come and work for foreign companies unless they're mega brand names. And so how did you get around that issue of actually convincing people to come and join you and start the business?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying about Japan earlier. First and foremost, we are not a Japanese company. So this already provides, let's say, a different kind of candidate, people that are looking for something different, looking to get out of a Japanese system and the way of doing things as well. Second of all is I don't speak Japanese. I was never expecting to come to Japan, so Japanese was not one of the language I learned as a kid.
How about now? Can you speak Japanese now?
I'm learning, but thankfully I built a team that was bilingual.
Right.
So I was looking for people that could speak perfect Japanese, of course, so if possible Japanese native, but also with very good English proficiency. And that also opens up to very limited candidates, but a different kind of candidates. So people that probably lived in Australia, the US, their parents sent them in the US when they were for university, and so on and so on. So it's a different kind of candidates that we're looking for. But that doesn't remove the fact that it's quite complicated. The pool is quite limited. And it was also a learning curve for us because as a fresh European company, we did not really understand the expectations of Japanese employees, the kind of safeties and conditions that they were expecting. And also, to be clear, to be honest, it's the salary. It's not the same. It's not the same expectations as we have in Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, quite closer, but still, and in Europe. So higher salaries, and so you have to convince the management that this is the only way. It's not me who's trying to hire people at a higher salary. It's just the way the market is, right? But actually, there is also, I guess, the management. So what I propose is a little bit different than what you would expect from a normal company. I tend to emphasize the individual. I want everybody to have the chance that I had, I would say, to distinguish themselves. It's not a question of diplomas. It's a question of who you are and what you think you can bring to the company. So in that way, I'm also looking for candidates that are themselves looking to prove themselves. So they're going an extra mile. So we were we are still a quite small company, but the team that we have is very dedicated and has a lot of, let's say, potential to get out of the main description of the main job description, right? It's not only about, I hired you to do this, but if he feels like he has the capabilities, then he can help one of his colleagues on other things. This is what we're looking for, is people helping each other out and people also showing initiatives. So it's not easy, but once you have one, you know you have the right candidate, somebody that you can really work for a long period of time. And so he can grow also with the company. So what I'm trying to build, like I said, is kind of a family, because work is kind of hard. The hours are not always easy, but if everyone is helping each other out and we build a tight relation, I don't know how you would say that, but a close-knit I don't know.
That's right. Close-knit family style.
Close-knit family style company, we can go way further, right? So
it's quite interesting because, normally Japanese employees are basically trained to be told what to do. Don't take initiative. Don't take any risks. Avoid failure. Keep your head down. Have a very small job description so you don't stray out of that, because there's sort of like danger outside of that job description. But the type of person you're talking about, as you say, is quite a different type of mentality to that, and that they're prepared to take risks, step out, step up, that type of thing. So the fact that you could find those people is, congratulations on that, because it's not like they're all lying around here like gold bricks on the road or something. You just pick them up. They're not that easy to find, so you've done well. And how big is the team in Japan now?
So we are now 13.
30. Well, you've done very well to get 30, and so 30 is a good size for a foreign organisation. You've only been here since 2006. Well, you were here 2017, so relatively short period of time, and you've also had COVID to deal with in the last 3 years. So, well done. So, in terms of, I guess also, probably you hired all of those 30 people yourself, I guess.
13.
Oh, 13. Sorry, 13. All of those 13 yourself. So in the Japanese context, there's a very big loyalty in you hired them, they work for you, and they feel that strong bond with the leader. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm a soldier in this massive big army and this huge Japanese corporation, and no one could care less about me. I am a number. When you're 13 people, you're, as you say, you're part of the family. You've hired everybody. They feel, a strong bond with you. And that makes it, I guess, for a very good teamwork, I'm supposing. So at some point, though, you have to get people to become engaged, because your direction, I guess, is quite expansive. It's not like, okay, we've got this small world and we're going to occupy this small world. It's like, we're going to go here and maybe we'll go a bit there, and maybe we'll expand a bit over here and maybe we'll do a bit over there. You've got to convince people to do that. So what have you found works well? So take a Japanese team into the unknown, take them into places which maybe were not in their job description, or which they hadn't thought about before, or, follow me, we're going this direction now, here's an opportunity, let's pursue that. What have you found works well to get people behind you to do those sorts of things? How do you engage them?
It's a very good question. Well, I think first it starts with the selection of the candidates, right? Mm-hmm. So these people don't fit in the Japanese box. Mm-hmm. So I think they're also trying to prove themselves to their families, to their close ones, that they are not an outcast, that they can do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I do feel that within some of the colleagues I have, where it is a challenge, to show that, they are not on the margins, or they were right. They can do this the Japanese way, or maybe it's not the Japanese way, but being proactive, being that kind of hunter has its potential and has also its mirror in other countries, right? So,
well, I don't remember ever asking my parents anything about any of the companies that I decided to work for. And my grandparents never got involved in my job selection. But for a lot of Japanese, and naturally a spouse is going to be probably the key person to get behind, hey, I'm going to change companies, I want to join this company. But, in Japan, the parents get involved, the grandparents get involved, So that whole thing about the outcast, or the sort of, going off on a tangent away from the mainstream, not such a straightforward thing for Japanese. Now, maybe for you and I as foreigners, as I say, I never asked my parents or grandparents anything about my job selections. I just did it, And, they liked it or didn't like it, didn't matter. I just go and do it. But there is that thing in Japan that little bit more in the decision making. You've got to convince people a bit more, allay their fears a bit more, make sure that they're clear that there's an opportunity here. It's worthwhile to take the risk of leaving another company and coming here. So how did you convince them to do that? And given that their immediate family were probably quite involved in that decision too.
Well, I've had quite a few discussions with some of them about it. Honestly, I was learning also because they were opening themselves to me about their problems, and honestly, it was just to accept also their choices and try to help to make this as seamless as possible too. If there was anything that we could do to make it look better, and also not to oblige them to do anything that may affect their relationship or the vision that people may have about them. I've had this example in the past about how people dress. So it's a bit of a stupid example, but I don't oblige people to wear suits, or I just, casual, bring a change in case a customer comes, so that you can dress up if you have to, but their job does not require to have a face-to-face contact with their customers, so they don't need to be dressed in a particular way. Just be comfortable and business casual and casual, right? And I realized that was a problem for some of my employees, because
when they leave the house in the morning and the
yes,
people in the neighbourhood see them dressed like this, maybe they've lost their job, maybe they got sacked, maybe things are bad down there, they're not dressed properly.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I was very surprised to hear about it, because, like you said, we don't care. Don't tell me what to do. But over there, yes. So in that moment, there was this misunderstanding between the employee and myself, where he thought I was forcing him to dress casually because that's what I told him. And of course, as the manager, that's what my boss says. And so it brought him to a very difficult situation where he was kind enough to open himself up to me. And we had this discussion, which was very surprising to me. And then, of course, I said, of course, wear a suit, every day, wear a suit. Shine your shoes every morning, whatever it takes. I don't mind. So it was very surprising to me to learn about these little things. But luckily enough, that specific person was open-minded enough to reach out and explain to me this problem, and hopefully, my open-mindedness helped me to understand and say yes.
How long
of course.
did it take for him to actually open up and tell you that? Because I'm sure there was probably some period of time where he was wearing casual every day and hating it.
Yes.
And thinking, I got to talk to my boss about this,
yes.
but I'm not sure I can tell him.
Actually, I think it's me who went, because he was dressing casually and then suit again. And then I started asking, I said, why you keep on wearing the suit? Like the other day you were dressed, fine, it was fine. I don't want to make a mess out of it. I don't mind, but why the switch, And then he opened up and said, "Oh, but Bob, people in the train station, they recognize me. They know my parents. It's like wearing sunglasses. You can't wear sunglasses because it means you're lazy." I remove my sunglasses right away. I remove my sunglasses right away. So there's so many things that I'm still learning, but I guess it's by being open-minded and by allowing them to open up themselves to me. Nothing's going to happen. It's all about, if your performance is there, or if there is anything that goes wrong, I always want to privilege or to put forward dialogue, right? People need to talk to each other. If you don't talk, then there will be problems that you may not be able to solve. If you have any issues, talk to me. Let's see if we can figure it out. There is no risk in being open and being transparent. And then if we can find a solution, at least because we have all the facts on the table. If there is no communication, then I will make assumptions, and they may be wrong, and then it will lead to somewhere we may not want to go. So just be open, let's discuss, don't be afraid. And I think now over the years, because I have a good retention, very little turnover, they like it.
I guess also, bosses say these things, right? You're a foreigner, you make this comment, right? A Japanese probably thinking, really? I don't know. So they'll test you on little things, and see what your reaction is and see if what you're saying is actually matching up what you do. And as they test little things, they say, oh, okay, I can go a little bit bigger now with this next issue. And so they don't just jump in and tell you straight away. They'll hold back a little bit and just test it out. And also, if you get a chance, have a listen to, I can't remember the episode number now, but I did a podcast with Mr. Nakashima, who's the chairman of Kewpie, who make a very famous mayonnaise product here, amongst other things, food products. His company is quite interesting. Talk about the parents and the grandparents and all this stuff. They send out a monthly newsletter to the parents of the staff. The parents, updating them on what's happening in the company. And we have the summer gifts and the winter gifts. They send product, of course, to the parents, summer and winter. And if your child in that company, is starting to go to school, they will send that child a pencil or pencils with their name on it. Like they really, like when I heard that, I thought, wow, this is really dealing with the whole, support group behind the individual in the company. So you can imagine, if your parents are getting this regular communication, your kids are getting pencils, and you want to quit Kewpie and go somewhere else, how much opposition there's going to be in the family to do that? I don't think that's why they did it. I think it's more of a family atmosphere. But that was, it's quite interesting. When he told me that, I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing, as a unit. So anyway,
it's pretty interesting. I'll think about it.
Have a listen to it. You'll find it on the podcast. That was interesting when he told me that. So you're encouraging people. You're talking about the flexibility there, but also adaptability. So if it needs to be suit, then you say, well, okay, suit's fine. That's good. Or no suit, that's fine too. What other things have you found work well to engage the team?
Should I say it on camera? Drinking.
Of course you can say it on camera. That's, Japanese invented this, right? This whole, they invented in a big sense of this non-communication, but in many ways, as we go through generational change, in big companies anyway, a lot of young Japanese are not interested in going out drinking with the boss. They don't want to spend their own time. They have other hobbies or things they want to do. So that, even within Japan, that's sort of coming right down, the sort of our old style, you finish work, you all go out, with the boss and drinking. That's changing. So I'm just wondering, if that's still working for your company.
The real answer drinking, we'll talk about it after, but the real answer, I believe, is thanks to, the time, I managed to have a few key employees which I promoted to management, with whom I've had the privilege and the luck to reach kind of a very good level of relationship. And therefore, I am able to distance myself a little bit, and they become the filter. So because they are Japanese, they're easier to talk to. The other employees open up more easily. They know he has my ear, so they will talk to him under cover of anonymity, I would say, and then he will be able to report to me. And that has really helped me manage the team and making sure there is really continuity.
Sort of
and
buffer or a filter. Yes. Yeah, that helps, yeah.
Because I've seen it, I know it. The employee-manager relationship is something very sacred in Japan. And so therefore we'll go into the drinking. But before they start being honest, it takes quite a bit of time. And even if you're asking them to be transparent, to tell them, to tell me what's on their mind, you're never 100% sure that's what they actually
so you have
believe.
To tell them more than once. When people join this company, and particularly the women, I tell them, I say, look, if I ever say or do anything that you don't like, tell me, because I'm a man, you're a woman, I'm a foreigner, you're Japanese. The chances are I won't even know it's a problem. Men are like this. We don't understand how women think in general terms. And then we have the whole thing of different nationality. So if I'm ever doing anything that you don't like, or I say anything you don't like, if you don't tell me, I'll never know. And if you tell me that, then I'll stop doing it and I'll stop saying it. The trouble is you can't say that once. You have to keep telling them because you think, oh, I'm the boss, I've told them, they've got it, we're done there. Not necessarily. One of my team, she wanted to quit, and we're doing the exit interview, and I asked her, what was the issue? And she told me. I said, well, I can fix that. I can fix that right now. No problem. Why didn't you come to me when you joined? I told you, but I thought, oh, one and done. I've told her it's done. We're good there, right? No. So I learned.
Repeat.
You've got to keep telling them, because they may forget or they may not believe it or they may, they may choose to take it a different direction. So that was a lesson for me. Like I was a bit too confident in my communication skills. I thought I took care of that. What things have you found work well in terms of getting ideas for the team? Because your company is very entrepreneurial from what you've told me. They've given you a lot of leeway to do things and you've established a business in Japan from nothing. They're encouraging you. I'm sure that whole culture filters into the whole team. And so, do you have any particular brainstorming methodologies you like to follow, or do you have any, random things you do, or simple things you do to get ideas from people, things at work to get ideas coming from the team? Because often when we're the boss, we have a lot of information from headquarters and we get a lot of market information and we tend to come up with a lot of ideas and we drive those ideas through the team. But how about the other way? How do we get sort of bottom up and get their ideas on what we could do? Anything you found works well for that?
Well, I would say here it's about listening to their individuality, because each and everyone has, let's say, different interests and different methodologies of doing things. So as long as they're following the direction that is being given, I guess giving them the freedom to work and to prospect in the fields that are of their own interests without forcing them may help. So that gives them more motivation to actually go through with it or go all the way and contact more customers and so on and so on. So I guess that could be, giving them the freedom to do what they want to do. Other than that, I don't think there is any magical solution to motivate them.
Because one of the things often is, we can be very dominant as leaders in terms of direction. We should do this, we should do that. And so we drive from that, but often because we're not Japanese, we don't have all the information. Often they're the ones in front of the clients too. And as you go up in the hierarchy, one day you realise I'm not talking to many clients anymore, the people who work for me are. And they know what's going on, and do I know what's going on? So you have that sort of little bit of separation sometimes too, to actually understand, do I have enough information here to be making these decisions? Maybe I need to get some more input from them about what we could be doing, because they may know something I don't know, and trying to reach down. But often, because we're sort of driving, and we don't give them the chance to speak up. So that I've found myself, there's got to be opportunity for people to speak up.
Actually, I think that's mostly what I do, because I feel they know more. I have a global understanding of the strategy. I know where we have to go, but I am not Japanese, and I know that I will never fully understand it. There will always be intricacies and little things that I may not be aware of. So I do tend to go the other way around. The approach is, please tell me. And then we'll take the decision together based on what are my obligations and how we can get to that end goal. So I do tend to ask a lot of information and a lot of feedback from my team. And this is also why I am putting them forward as much as possible. I'm trying to be behind the lines. Well, first of all, because it makes also look more Japanese. and because this is what we want in the service industry, they expect Japanese quality, Japanese services. So it's important that we are a Japanese company. And so, yeah, I think maybe it's about giving them the power, giving them the opportunity to tell me off. Tell me, we can't do it like that. Even if the management says it, we can't do that. We have to follow this kind of rule, and then we can discuss internally. Let's see what kind of flexibility we have, and they probably are right. So let's try to make it as much as possible their way.
I'm a driver personality, so I'm a very quick decision maker. I remember once I had one of my team members, a number of years ago, came to me, and she had a proposal, and within 30 seconds, mentally, I'd agreed to it. But I had to sit there and shut up and listen for half an hour as she went through the proposal detail with me, which was killing me because I'd already made up my mind to support it, But I realised if I'd said, yep, that's good, let's do it, really quickly, there was a danger that she would have interpreted that as being rather light, flippant, didn't take us seriously. I agreed to something. I didn't even hear the detail. She'd prepared all this detail to convince, gone all this trouble, and I just, ignored it and just, yeah, okay, we'll do it. I mean, she would have got the result, but I realised that she wouldn't have been satisfied with a yes decision. She wanted to have her proposal taken and her taken seriously. I remember sitting there. It was killing me. It was just killing me. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Listen. Sit there. Listen. Half an hour, of my time. Like, come on, let's go. But this is something about Japan too. As a leader, sometimes you've got to realise that your quick decision making isn't necessarily always a positive, because they get what they want. They want to be taken seriously. Listen to the whole thing. Show that you've really thought through it. That you understand, you appreciate what they're saying and the work they've done, and then you give them the decision. They want a yes, of course. So that was a learning for me. I somehow intuitively I knew I should just sit there and shut up and keep listening, even though I wanted to say, we're done here, get out of my office, I've got other things to do.
Yeah.
So what about trust? You mentioned trust a little bit before, and how trust is a little bit different in Japan. Around quality and commitment and living up to your word and doing what you say you're going to do and all that sort of thing. How do you build trust with a team?
Well, I guess it's pretty simple, is stay true to your word. So when they are asking for help, or if they have any issues, be there for them. This is what I'm always saying, because I go out of my way also, my job description is this, but if I have to help them on deliveries, and especially in the early days, I was putting my hands in all the different aspects of the different jobs there was. So what I expected out of them is, I have your back, so you can have my back. And so you have to show them that you have their back. Call me at any time during the night, answer the phone. And you answer the phone. If I have to go back to the office, I'll go check if the spares are there, if the customer is coming, I'll be there for this. So at any time, so show them that you are dedicated to helping them, and so they'll dedicate themselves to helping you. They'll understand that you're not just saying because that's the way the managers should say. You're actually doing it and getting your hands dirty. And we have done that quite a lot of times in the early days with the core employees that are still with us now. And that's how you build trust, being there. And when they ask for your help, you actually give it, and go the extra mile, go to the extra mile for them. And it's also job-wise, let's say professional, but outside as well, private life as well. If they have any worries, if they have anything, they can always count on me. So, for example, when there is, emergency family troubles and so on, or health issues, which are not directly related to them, I'm more than happy to hear about it and to help them and to put whatever is in my power to help them. And so it happened that the grandma of one of my employees was sick and no one could take care, so he's asking for a leave. So he said, of course, I'll take care of it, you go. And so you had like your whole week. They did not expect that. And so that shows that we are dedicated. And then we involve the whole team. So the whole team is helping to fill his shoes during that time. So when he comes back, kind of feels like he owes us, but he doesn't. It's like we are trying to tell him that it's normal. This is what a family does. You take care of us, we'll take care of you. Don't worry, we have your back. And that's the way, I guess, we built the trust in Evernex. It's a small company, we are growing quite fast lately, but we're still limited in terms of people. So we need to be very close to one another because it happens more often than I wish that you do have to get out of your comfort zone to do something that you have to help, you have to get your hands dirty again. And that builds the trust, confidence, and dedication. That's why also my team is always, very, reminds me all the time, and they should not, but they always say that, if I leave, they'll leave.
Right.
It's they're committed to my to me, which is weird, but I'll take it.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. But you hired them, see, this is what I was saying before. There's a contract there, not a written contract, but a social contract that you hired me. I'm loyal to you first, and the company second, I'm guessing, And that doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't, and it's got upside to it. It's also got limitations to it. If you've ever got to become the head of whole of the world and you've got to do that from somewhere else, what's going to happen. But that's a different issue.
Well, that goes back, I think, to also why I joined the company originally, because the CEO at the time was running a family-style company where he was, Evernex grew very fast, like I said, we were around 40, 50, and then we moved, now we're around 1,500.
Wow, that's a big growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
From when you joined.
Yeah, we were in 4
one
countries.
Of the originals.
Yes.
You were employee number 41 or something.
Exactly,
like that, right?
Yes. So we had, I think we had 4 branches, and now we have 47. And we're in 160 countries.
Wow.
$500 million.
Going well.
Yeah. But I didn't get a chance to explain what we do yet, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But so this is why I joined Evernex, is first because it was within the business that I was interested in, which is recycling, circular economy, green. Second, it was in Italy, so I could continue learning Italian. And third, I fell in love with the management, the style they were doing, because the way people were, all of these people are still my friends. Some of them left, of course, but I'm still in contact with all of them. We were very close to one another. Everyone was in the same boat, right? And we built, my old boss built this company out of its people, right? And we were organizing events for bringing people together. People were not supposed to know each other only through mails and phone. They had to meet in person. You had to know each other so that whenever there was a situation that you needed help, you can call that person and he will pick up the phone and you can have an answer very fast that will get you out of trouble much easier and much faster, because you have, the trust of your colleagues, and they'll answer, they'll help you, and you can move on, and you're all together. If you have a problem, they'll help you. And this is the kind of company that I grew up in.
That's
and
great.
That's what I want to give to them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We have we go through our vision, mission, values every day here, every morning, and the values are, we're professional, respectful, enthusiastic, sincere, we're principled. But then I added some more nuance to that, and I said our priorities are your health, your family's health, company health. So disappearing for a week to take care of granny is within the values here of your family's health. And so that whole thing that maybe a Japanese company is not that flexible, not that adaptable, but we're a small organisation too. So we try and, like you, we try and have that ethos that it is, we're looking after each other and we're flexible about you've got to take time off for grandma, you can't take care of grandma, How do you handle mistakes though? What, things, people screw stuff up, because in a Japanese context, no defects, no errors, no mistakes is the basic idea here. But people, often do make mistakes. How do you think about that?
So actually, I thought about it. I had this discussion a few weeks ago. How I handle that is by being open-minded again. So what I explained to one of my managers is that each of the guys have their own personality. And to interpret that is each and everyone has their advantages and weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses. Therefore, learn from the mistakes that this particular employee has done, but always try to see what are his strong points, where is competitive advantage, right? And focus on that. This person is not so good in social skills when he has reached a certain amount of stress. So learn about it and make sure he doesn't end up in this situation again. And that this other person is not so good in the casual, but is very good under heavy stress. So when the situation becomes out of hand, let him handle it. And then how to place your people based on their strengths and their weaknesses, because each person has its strengths and weaknesses. So you can't judge. You can't put everyone in the same shell or something like that. You have to be able to see both aspects of that person, and then as a manager being able to utilize them to its maximum, to its fullest extent, right? So that's how I would handle it, is really if somebody does something wrong, it's not the end of the world. Could be, but try to understand what's behind it, and let's make sure that he has other advantages or things that make it a very valued employee. Of course, there are times when you do have to let go of people because they're
constant
using you.
Mistakes or the same mistake repeated would be a different.
Exactly.
Category,
So mistakes that are being repeated is one of them, and also when people are double-faced, they say something but they do the other, and they hide it. So not being open, not being transparent, that is also a cause for reevaluation and so on. But really, that's the whole thing. It's really about putting the people in the position where they're best suited at. So this is one of his weaknesses, so don't put him in that position. put that guy. This guy is better. So learn about what kind of people you are working with and strengths and weaknesses, and use that to your advantage. That's how I would do it.
You do it right. And what about building a culture? Like you talk about, your firm has a particular culture already. Family started with, when you joined 40 people, now it's thousands. And it's, global. It's just grown incredibly well. So there's a certain culture for the organisation. But we're in Japan, which has its own culture. And then you are you. Bob has Bob's view on leadership and Bob's view on how we should run around here together and work together. So you create a certain culture. How do you get that culture to work for you in Japan? What sort of culture have you come up with?
Well, I think it's the summary of what I've said so far. It's really, I've been trying to replicate what I grew, or what I grew up in while I was in Italy and in Hong Kong, with that company culture, which is very focused on its employees, on the welfare, like you said again, for the family, being very close and having core values, right? So it's has to be very strong values towards the people, respect, and also that will replicate itself with the values that we give to our customer, which are trust and affidability, reliability. Sorry, I was Italian.
That's all right. You've got 6-7 languages floating around in there, Bob. So your English is brilliant. Don't worry about that.
So in the end, it's who I am. So I think deep down, whether I like it or not, this is the culture that I'm trying to provide, to give, and so on. If you don't fit, then you leave at some point.
Yeah.
If you fit, then the story will continue. The adventure will go. So that's the idea. But yeah.
So someone rings you and says, "Hey, Bob, I've been given the job of running my organisation in Japan, and you know all about Japan, Bob. I want to be a success in Japan. Give me some advice on how I can run my organisation." What advice would you give someone for that? What should they do?
Well, it depends on what kind of business is working in. But I guess
let's say it's a big organisation. They're big enough to send someone in from outside to take over and run the organisation. So what would you suggest? There's bound to be some commonalities.
The first thing is you are in Japan. So learn about Japanese ways, learn about Japanese people, their traditions, their customs, and remember it. I would think it's very important in Japan to show that you understand their business culture, the way they're doing things, and it needs also to be, it should not affect yourself, right? So what I mean by that is, don't let your own character take over, right? Maybe that's not the way it is. Again.
Don't be obstinate, or don't be self-centered, or don't be
like
arrogant, or don't be whatever.
So no. Sorry, I'll start again. The idea is
okay,
really.
We'll start again.
So, in my opinion, it's first you have to learn as much as possible about the Japanese culture and the Japanese way of doing business. That's the first thing, because if you want to impose your own way of doing things, it will not work. You will hit a wall and you will not understand why you hit it. So the first thing is understand it, and then the second is respect it. Because who are you to tell them how things are done? And that's, I think, very, very important, because it shows as well, and they like it, because you are trying your best to understand them, and they'll appreciate it. And that will make them feel more confident to work with you and be more open-minded, and more transparent again with you. So I think Japanese culture is so strong and very unique that learning and respecting it is the first step. Second, I would say, is trust and be close to your employees, because they are the one that are going to drive the business forward, and they will have the insights and the know-how for, to teach you how things work. And based on that, you can assimilate, mix it, learn it, and then make your own sauce. But if you make your own sauce based on your préjugés and a prioris from outside of Japan, you may face a harsh truth, and you may not stay very long in Japan at the position that you are given. That's what I think. It's very important to understand how important Japanese business ways and culture is, and deep down, it's not so bad either. So
I think one of the key learnings to really understand things when you come in from outside, and I don't know that many foreign leaders do this, is to go and spend time with the clients. Because, your people are talking to the clients. The clients have a certain view, a certain requirements, certain expectations, and you go and spend time with them. Because there's one thing for your team to tell you, well, this is how it is, boss, in Japan. You go, well, I don't know about that. Back at headquarters, we didn't do it that way, and I've been successful by ramming the square peg in the round hole before. I think I'll just keep doing that here. But when you go and talk to clients and they tell you this is how it is, that's really an eye-opener. You go, okay, I thought it was like this, but actually that's not what they think is important, or they want it done this way, and that's a pain, but I can see that's how they want it. And so, I have to talk to headquarters about we're going to change things to suit that. So I think the client test is a good one. So I always think to myself, and I can't say that I did this well, but spending time with clients is a big eye-opener on what the reality is for Japan. If you're coming outside, I've sort of come from inside in Japan, so it's a bit different. But when you're sort of coming in from outside, you go and do that. And then, you find this is why your people are telling you this stuff, because what are they doing? They're dealing with the clients too. They're hearing this from the clients. They're telling you, you don't believe it because you don't think that's not how we do it. And then bingo, you discover that is how we do it here. You've got to change. Should they learn Japanese? Should they study Japanese language? Should they learn to speak Japanese?
Who?
The new boss, your friend who's ringing, Bob. Should I learn Japanese when I'm there?
Well, I think it's important that you show that you're willing to learn, and learning, basic sentences and greetings and so on and so on. I think it's important. I personally don't think you should speak Japanese perfectly, because either you've been learning it for a very, very long time, but maybe it's the excuse I use. But the idea is that if I start speaking in Japanese, my customers will expect and start speaking in Japanese. And then if I say something wrong, I use the wrong word, I'm not talking in Keigo, I haven't, they'll expect me to be much more Japanese than what I actually am. So their expectations are different. And so I think the possibility to make a mistake is higher. When we speak in English, we are on the same playing field. There is no room for misunderstanding. I know what I'm saying, I know how I'm saying it, and whatever, if you interpret it badly, then it's on you. But if I start speaking in Japanese and I haven't used the right term, or I didn't bow enough or something, or I didn't turn around just before he left, there's so many intricacies. So once you reach a certain a level of Japanese, I believe expectations will be different. So I think basic, it's good, show interest, and also it's a very fun and interesting language, so it's good for your personal skills and so on. I like it. But using it professionally, if you don't have to, if it's not a necessity, I would not recommend it.
I'm interested, you speak 6 languages already. How was it learning Japanese? Because you've come from, living in Thailand, living in Italy, growing up in Belgium, in France, you've got this, your English is perfect. I mean, it's incredible. I'm very jealous of how fluent you are in all these different languages. But what did you think when you started learning Japanese? Did you think, wow, this is really so different or so difficult, or this is easy, or oh, I get it, or, I mean, your mind, I'm imagining, for languages is so receptive to, the adaptations needed. I wonder about that.
Well, I like it. So it was very strange to me because of the different alphabets, and it's the first time, I have to write characters. None of the languages that I know, it's all about Latin. So everything is except Thai, but Thai I barely know how to write the alphabet.
To Hong Kong, kanji,
but yeah, Chinese I never learned, right? I leave that to my brother. So for me, it was the first real Asian language that I was studying. So it was very interesting because I wanted to know if it could reflect also on the history of the region, how, with China, how the alphabet and why there are three different alphabets and kanjis and so on and so on. So that was very interesting for me. Then the learning, I'll be very honest here, I'm not very good in grammar. So I'm very good at remembering words. So I will speak, but I will not have the right way of writing. With you have to put the verb at the end of the I know how to speak, and usually this is how I learned. It's always about ear. It's not about, I never learned Italian by writing. I never went to school. It's just because I heard it.
You heard it.
I hear it. It's close to Spanish. It's close to French. So I can assimilate. And then the more I practice, then I got it. So actually I speak Italian, but I never learned it. And I'm doing it a little bit the same in Japanese. I'm taking lessons. And I'm learning words and words and words and words. So my spoken is much better than my written, right? And that's how I go about it.
Yeah, well, good on you. I'm impressed.
Well, I'm I still a long way to go. And like I said, I'm using this excuse not to learn it to a certain extent.
Fair enough. What would be your definition of leadership then, Bob?
Goal-oriented, but with empathy and driven. You need to know what your goals are. You need to know where you want to go, and you need to be able to sell that dream to your team. You need to be able to show what are the benefits of what you're doing. So that's why it's also good to work in a company that actually makes sense. This is why also I work for Evernex. And so it's kind of, you motivate people because you know that what you're doing, what you're selling is actually something good. And
strong why.
Yes.
Strong why in the business, yeah.
And leadership is about showing this vision to them and taking them along for the ride, and trying not to make too many mistakes along the way, because we are also humans, right? So learn from your mistakes too, be honest about it, and I think also it's a very cheesy, everybody uses it, but it's actually so true, is surround yourself with people that are better than you. Because that's where not everyone is lucky enough to have had the life I've had, and it doesn't mean that I'm smarter than anybody. And I think being honest about that and being open-minded and trusting other people and learning from other people and giving them the possibility to express themselves goes a long way.
Well, let me end on a question I ever ask in the podcast, the first time I asked this question, but where's your favourite place in Italy?
Ooh, haha.
Because I love Italy, and I'm always looking for good places to go to. So,
Well, I lived most of my time in Rome.
okay.
So I am a very, very big fan of Rome and its surroundings. Lazio, Abruzzo, it's so beautiful and it's so close to Napoli. So yes, the easiest answer for me is Rome.
Rome. Okay.
Rome is the best.
Very good.
I'm gonna get a lot of negative views on that. Oh God.
Well, it's a preference. There's no
Yes,
correct
yes,
answer,
yes,
right?
yes,
There's
yes.
no correct answer.
No, but it's a very beautiful city. The food is amazing. If you are not in the peak touristy time, you get a chance to meet the Romans, and then you really start to enjoy it. And it's beautiful. You have this, the city center is one of the most beautiful, full of history city in the world, and you are 35 minutes away from the beach and 1 hour away from ski stations. What else do you want?
Not bad.
The best food in the world. Yeah, beautiful people, beautiful sceneries, beautiful history. It's insane. It's the greatest.
Okay, on that note.
Should I explain at some point what Evernex does?
Do that. Go ahead. Yeah. Well, we talked about before about the recycling and but go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Tell us. Yeah, no, leave it in. Tell us.
So yes, Evernex, because this is also why I continued in it. But so Evernex is a IT recycling company originally. It was born as a recycling for data centers. So what we call high-end equipment, which is servers, storage, networking. Usually what I tell people is the room which has a lot of green dots, the rack, that's what we work on, not PCs and so on and so on. And the idea of the whole concept of the company is to extend the life of IT equipment. So through refurbished equipment. So recycling was one of the main part, but what we try to do is not really recycle, is to buy back equipment. We will recycle if we have to, but to repair it or to reuse it. And so the second part of our business is brokerage. We work with companies that are kind of our main competitors that repair equipment, IT equipment, servers and such. So we are brokers of spare parts. So like a fan, a hard drive, a memory disk, and so on and so on. And then the next evolution, which is why Evernex also has grown so much, is that we realized that we had the raw materials, the spare parts. We had the technical know-how because we know how to check whether or not we can fix them. We had people that knew how to test within the machines and so on and so on. So we had the technical know-how and we had the resources and so the manpower. So we said now what we should do is move on to what we call maintenance or insurance. So when you buy equipment, it's the same as your PC or your phone. You have usually between 3 and 5 years of warranty on your equipment. After those 3 or 5 years, the OEM, so the manufacturer, will probably give you the extension for 1 or 2 years, but the price is going to be quite high, and they'll probably also give you an option to buy a new machines at a discounted price, right? So the extension of the maintenance of the warranty will be quite close to actually buying a new one. So the choice is, I could buy the new one. Yeah, of course, why not, And what we're trying to do is we enter here by coming with refurbished spare parts and our know-how, we are able to lower the costs and to extend the life of your equipment, not for 1, 2, 3 years, but if you want for 10, 15, 20. And the costs is also much lower, between 60 to 70% of what other vendors may propose. And again, for a very, very long period of time. And yeah, that's what Evernex mainly is focused on right now. Extend the life of your equipment, stop producing, stop recycling, throwing away equipment that is working very well because you are being forced to. So to continue, because big brands like HP, IBM, Dell, EMC, and so on, of course, they have a production line. So they usually have teams working on that specific equipment for 3 to 5 years. So that's why even for your iPhone, you will have software updates, firmware upgrades, and so on, because people are working on those and they're analyzing and making sure that if there are errors and mistakes, that they fix it, and so on. But these people work on these machines for 3 to 5 years until they say that the machine is stable. It's okay, we fixed most of the problems, nothing new gonna come up. So these teams will now move to the new generation. They'll start working on the next generation. And so after that, you have a small period between 2 and 3, 5 years maybe, max, where they're going to stop producing the spare parts for that machines. So after usually 7 years, that's what we call end of support life. So first 5 years is end of life. They're not going to work on it, but you can still get the support. And then you have end of support life, EOSL. And after that, you don't get maintenance anymore. They don't want to do it. So this is where we come in. After the 3 years, when the machine is stable, because of course we are independent. We cannot provide firmware upgrades, software upgrades, because those are IPs, intellectual properties. So we are not allowed to use them without their licenses, and so on. But once they're considered stable, you don't need to stay with the vendor, because the machine is stable. So the only thing is you can extend the life at a much cheaper price. You can make a lot of savings, and also you're helping the environment by extending the life of your equipment. You don't need the newest technology, especially in this kind of, depending on the business, of course. But many businesses don't have incredible changes or requirements over time that necessitate a big overhaul of their IT, right? So we give them this possibility to extend for a very, very long time and next period of time. And so the great thing about it is, at the end, when you still want to get rid of it, we'll take it back. We probably be able to give you, let's say, a financial offer, because your equipment to us still has value. So we'll buy it back, and then we'll repair, we'll take the spare parts, and we will reuse those spare parts in other contracts. So we are able to continue and have
a global circle there.
Yes, that's the perfect definition of circular economy. From A to Z, we keep it and we make it circle. And so we're able to provide, significant carbon footprint reduction that can be come with certificates that you can show. So nowadays, before the shift was cost saving. 2007 was the year in Europe, financial crisis. People are finally looking at a different way of doing things. And this is when they were interested in our services. Oh, I can make 70% saving on my CapEx, OpEx, crazy. So then they start thinking about it. Now the shift is no longer about cost save, although it's still there in the back of their minds, but we are a green company.
Okay.
So now it's all about showing
ESG
carbon footprint.
Okay.
We are green, circular, all the presentation. Now it was cost saving first, and then circular economy has moved to, we switched to show how green we are and how we can help in the environment. Of course, it's a business technique, I guess, but we've always been both. We're smart enough to understand which one is more relevant at the time, especially now in Japan, thanks to the government pushing for net zero emission. It has started to move big players like NTT, and they're, once they make an announcement or a pledge to commit, smaller companies, of course, follow. This is what happened with the COVID. Everybody home. NTT said it. All right, everyone home. And so it's moving towards it's getting very interesting now. It's a good time in Japan for the recycling and.
So you better stay here, Bob. All the team want you to stay here. They're country needs you. You better hang in here.
Yeah, well, I'm not planning to go anywhere. I really like it. I'm in my mission now. I have my mission. It's my, it's something I built from the ground up. So I'm really committed. And also, I don't know how I would leave my team now. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm committed, and I like Japan. It's a great place to be.
I came here for 2 years originally. Now it's 38, so be careful.
Oh my God! All right,
Be careful.
cut that. No. Yeah, well, I didn't have any expectations, but yeah, it's almost 7 years now. So
It gets going.
yeah.
Well, please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.